Imagine a world where being average isn't a curse, but the secret to success. A world where brilliance is sidelined and genius is left to wander in the shadows. What if the very traits that make you exceptional also make you an outcast? Today we explore a paradox as old as civilization itself. Why do mediocre people often rise to power while true geniuses remain overlooked? And who better to shed light on this conundrum than Arthur Schopenhauer, a philosopher who saw the world in brutal, unfiltered terms? Have you ever wondered why society seems to reward conformity over creativity? Why the loud, the average, or the seemingly unremarkable can often outshine those with revolutionary ideas? It's not simply chance. It's a pattern rooted in human psychology and cultural survival instincts. Schopenhauer argued that life itself is driven by a blind, irrational force, the will. And in this relentless struggle, the loudest voices are not always the most thoughtful ones. Consider this. In every group, the person who speaks the most, who fits the mold, often finds themselves in positions of influence. Meanwhile, those who think too deeply, those who dare to challenge the status quo, are pushed aside. Why? Because true genius can be dangerous. It disrupts the comfortable illusions upon which societies are built. Think about it. When you're surrounded by mediocrity, a person with conventional ideas feels safe, validated by the echo of common thought. But when someone introduces a radically different idea, one that questions the very foundation of accepted norms, it doesn't just challenge opinions, it challenges the self-image of everyone around. Schopenhauer believed that the intellect can be as much a burden as it is a gift. In a world built for survival through conformity, being exceptional means exposing uncomfortable truths. Imagine a dinner party. Everyone talks about the weather, sports, or the latest TV show. Then someone dares to question the purpose behind these trivialities. Suddenly, the conversation turns uneasy. The person who challenges, who dares to be different, quickly becomes an outsider. Their deep ideas force others to confront their own limitations. And that, according to Schopenhauer, is why society often turns its back on true genius. History is littered with examples. Galileo, whose revolutionary ideas shattered the medieval worldview, was persecuted and silenced. Tesla, a visionary who dreamed of a world powered by free energy, ended his life in obscurity, his innovations misappropriated by others. And what of the great artists and philosophers, those whose ideas were too advanced for their time? They were celebrated only after the world had caught up with them. Schopenhauer was unflinching in his analysis. He noted that mediocrity thrives because it conforms. In contrast, genius is inherently disruptive. It questions, it rebels, and it refuses to settle for easy answers. This makes it an existential threat to the collective comfort of the many. In our evolutionary past, survival depended not on being the smartest, but on being part of the group. The lone thinker, with ideas that don't align with the common narrative, risks isolation. And isolation, in turn, can be fatal in a social species. So, what is it about our minds that causes us to sideline brilliance? One word: cognitive dissonance. When someone presents an idea that challenges our basic assumptions, our brains react as if we're under attack. The discomfort forces us to cling to familiar, if mediocre, ideas rather than explore the unsettling truths that genius reveals. Schopenhauer argued that this is the will to life in action, a drive to maintain the status quo, even at the expense of progress. Furthermore, consider the phenomenon known as the mirror effect. When a genius looks at you, you see not just their light, but also the dark corners of your own ignorance. Mediocre people, by contrast, reflect back an image that is comfortable and unchallenging. This is why leaders who speak in platitudes and celebrate average achievements tend to gain mass support, while those who speak truth, even if harsh, often find themselves in the minority. In today's digital age, this dynamic is amplified. Social media platforms and mass media favor simplicity, sound bites, and the familiar. Algorithms reward content that reinforces existing beliefs, while nuanced discussions about challenging ideas are pushed aside. A deep, thoughtful video on philosophy is less likely to go viral than one that peddles easy entertainment. In essence, the system is rigged in favor of mediocrity. Consider the corporate world. Innovative ideas are often stifled because they disrupt the flow of daily operations. The individual who asks too many questions or proposes radical changes may be sidelined in favor of someone who simply plays by the rules. Even in politics, the populist narrative, simple, direct, and appealing to basic instincts, often triumphs over complex policy debates. Schopenhauer's insights reveal a stark truth. Our institutions are designed to keep the status quo, not to celebrate brilliance. This leads us to a painful paradox. Every major leap in human progress has come at the cost of sidelining the visionary. Mediocre people, through their adherence to the norm, build systems that perpetuate safety and predictability. Meanwhile, geniuses challenge these systems, often at great personal cost. Their insights are ahead of their time and are only recognized as valuable once the dust of conventional thinking has settled. The rise of mediocrity is not a failure of society, it's a feature. It is the inevitable outcome of an environment where comfort and conformity are prized over the uncomfortable truths of genius. Schopenhauer warned us that this dynamic is not only inevitable but necessary for the collective survival of society. The price of progress is the isolation of the visionary, a burden that few are willing to bear. Now, take a moment to reflect on your own experiences. Have you ever felt that your unique perspective was dismissed or ridiculed? Have you found yourself conforming just to fit in, even when you knew there was a deeper truth waiting to be uncovered? This isn't just your imagination. It's a phenomenon deeply ingrained in our nature. For those of you who have ever felt isolated by your unconventional ideas, know that you are in good company. History is full of examples of individuals whose brilliance was ignored during their lifetimes, only to be celebrated by posterity. Yet, there is hope. By understanding these dynamics, you can navigate a world that often rewards mediocrity. Learn when to speak your truth and when to hold back. Find communities that appreciate depth, even if they are few and far between. Schopenhauer offers us a guiding principle. Embrace your isolation as a mark of distinction. While the world may not always be ready for your ideas, history will remember you if you persist. The journey of a genius is never easy, but it is one paved with the possibility of genuine, transformative change. So, how can you rise above the tide of mediocrity without losing yourself? Here are a few strategies inspired by Schopenhauer's philosophy. Cultivate selective expression. Not every thought needs to be broadcasted. Share your insights with those who are open to them. Create spaces, be they online forums, private groups, or intimate gatherings, where deep conversation is the norm rather than the exception. Embrace the art of solitude. Solitude is not loneliness. It is in these moments of quiet reflection that true insight is born. Schopenhauer believed that solitude was a privilege granted to the few who dared to seek truth over comfort. Develop resilience to rejection. Understand that rejection is not a reflection of your worth, but of society's inability to process radical ideas. Let each dismissal strengthen your resolve rather than diminish your spirit. Bridge the gap. Learn to translate complex ideas into accessible language without diluting their essence. Great thinkers like Einstein and Tesla were able to share their insights in ways that resonated with the public. Finding that balance can help you build bridges rather than walls. Seek like-minded souls. Surround yourself with those who value deep thinking. The right community can act as a sounding board for your ideas and provide the support necessary to weather the inevitable storms of misunderstanding. Reflect on how history has treated those who dared to deviate. Galileo was once condemned for looking at the stars with fresh eyes. His trial was not just a personal tragedy. It was a societal warning against challenging established norms. In the modern era, think of innovators whose visions were too radical for their time. While mediocrity often wins in the short term, it is the mavericks who ultimately reshape the world. Yet, the irony remains. The very qualities that set geniuses apart are the ones that alienate them from the masses. Mediocrity is, in many ways, the antidote to the chaos of change. It provides stability in a turbulent world. And while this may seem like a betrayal of progress, it is a necessary counterbalance to the relentless drive of genius. What does it mean for our future when mediocrity is rewarded over brilliance? When average ideas become the norm, we risk stagnation. Innovation requires risk, and risk often means being misunderstood. Schopenhauer's philosophy forces us to confront a harsh reality. The path of genius is lonely and fraught with resistance. But it is also the very path that leads to profound breakthroughs in art, science, and human understanding. This is not to say that every unconventional idea will be celebrated. Far from it. The world is a battleground of ideas where comfort battles disruption at every turn. Yet, if we can learn to appreciate the value of those who dare to think differently, we might foster an environment where true innovation is not only possible, but inevitable. As we wrap up this exploration, remember that the rise of mediocrity is not a failure of the exceptional. It is a systemic response to the discomfort of change. Geniuses are ignored, not because they lack value, but because their value challenges us to grow. Schopenhauer's insights remind us that while society may choose the easy path of conformity, the pursuit of truth demands courage, resilience, and sometimes solitude. So, the next time you feel that your ideas are too radical, too deep, or too dangerous for mainstream acceptance, hold your head high. You are not alone. History is written by those who dared to see the world differently, even when the majority refused to look. If this exploration of the paradox between mediocrity and genius resonates with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Let's ignite a discussion on how we can celebrate true depth and innovation in a world that often settles for the average. And if you crave more insights into philosophy, psychology, and the power dynamics that shape our society, hit that subscribe button and join our community of deep thinkers. Remember, the path of genius is not meant to be easy, but it is the only path that leads to genuine transformation. Thank you for watching.